Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inside AWAI. My name is Rebecca Matter, and today we are talking about our the question we get asked the most. How do I choose a niche? Do I need to choose a niche? What if I have multiple niches? And so today I am joined by my awesome partner and co-founder of AWAI, Katie Yeakle. Hi, Katie.
Hi, and I'm so happy to be talking to my awesome partner.
and then
and our awesome Director of Master Copywriting Programs.
Yes, Pam Foster. So quickly, let me get through. I'm going to click over to her in just a second. So for those of you who don't know, if you're just new to AWAI or you're joining us today for the first time, Katie Yeakle is our Executive Director, and she's also one of the original co-founders of AWAI. So if you need to know something about this industry, she's the person who has the answers. That's me, Rebecca Matter. I'm the president of AWAI and head up a lot of the marketing. You'll hear me talking about getting clients and basically motivation, productivity stuff. And then finally, Pam Foster. Hi, Pam.
Hi.
Pam Foster is the one who's leading us today. She is our director of copywriting training. But the reason I wanted to introduce her is that Pam actually, a little over a decade ago, was sitting in the seat that you are now. She had found AWAI, taken our six-figure program, became a huge success, especially when she chose a niche for the first time, and she's going to share that with you today, and really went from somebody who just took a program to really working her skills and learning her craft and putting herself out there and picking a niche and building her business. And then eventually she became one of the leading experts on picking a niche, wrote a program for us on it. It was wildly successful. She became a speaker at our boot camps on the topic because she was so great. People were actually making these decisions, picking good niches that they felt excited about, which made everything easier for them. So we thought, oh my gosh, she's doing all of this. We had her at boot camp. Now she's one of our Circle of Success teachers. So she really has come all the way through from, again, brand new to AWAI all the way to one of our top presenters and now our director. She's actually overseeing all of our copywriting training. So you'll hear a lot from Pam as you move down your path to the writer's life, but I couldn't think of a better person to do this session. I get asked the question every webinar that Katie and I do. We are asked this question again and again, whether it's about picking a niche or not. It could be a webinar on building your website. It could be a webinar on the B2B opportunity. And the number one question is always, should I pick a niche? Does that limit my options? What if I have multiple niches? It's the same. So I'm so excited to have Pam here today. And with that, Pam, I'm just going to let you drive. And then Katie and I will actually be in the Q&A. So if you have questions along the way about picking a niche, about anything really, feel free to post them to us. Katie and I will run through and answer as many as we can, and then we will actually open it up at the end so you can post even more questions if they're for Pam or for one of us. We are here.
Yes, this is we love to do this every month. It's such a honor and privilege to be able to talk to you in this way. And I have to tell you, this is Katie again, there isn't anybody who is more passionate and positive and supportive and encouraging than Pam Foster. And her life is the writer's life, and her career has been, there's so many lessons along the way. And one of the many wonderful things about Pam is she's so happy to share those lessons with you. So I'm excited. I'm sitting back, and let's go.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for that very nice intro, and I love working with you guys too.
Yay!
So, yay! It's a love fest. Okay. So I have found it's so much fun to go to the live events for AWAI because I bump into people every day who are asking about the niche, choice. It's a big choice, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming, and it doesn't have to be a barrier to your progress because some people get paralyzed by that decision. And so hopefully today I can help remove that barrier for you, and by answering the top questions that we often get online and in person. So, oh, my little computer is doing the spiraling wait a minute thing. Well, the first question is, what is a niche? And I will get to that slide in a second. My computer just decided to freeze on me. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you great. Mine is spinning as well, so I'm guessing it might be a little WebEx issue. Let me know if you can't advance the slide, and I will take control, though, because I have mine back. Cam, can you hand me the ball, and I'll bump it forward for her? I can hear you, Pam. I wonder if she can't hear me. Okay, guys, we're on a technical glitch for a second. Pam, can you hear me? If you can't hear me, go ahead and hang up and call back in. I can advance your slides for you.
Guys.
Okay. Rebecca, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Cam, go ahead and mute Pam, because I don't think she realizes that we can hear her. Can you mute her quickly?
I'm back.
There you go.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay?
We can. And we could hear you
My computer just froze all of a sudden.
No worries. Let's pick up where we left off.
My computer froze.
It just froze when it saw all the people that are here to learn from you. That's all.
Okay, so let me try this again. So, all right, I'm very sorry about that. Technical freeze up. Okay, so what exactly is a niche? We get that question a lot because we talk about specialties of writing, types of writing, categories of writing, and then we talk about niches. So what a niche is it's a specific industry. So basically it's a specific market, such as the fitness market or the moms market or green construction. Financial newsletters is a niche, medical devices, software or IT, travel, wine, alternative health. These are all what we're talking about as niches. So I just want to be really, really clear. It's an industry or a market that you would focus on versus a type of writing or a writing specialty. And those would be, the writing specialties or types would be B2B copywriting, blogging, websites, case studies, white papers, long-form direct response, sales copy, those kinds of specialties. So there's a big difference there, right? And you can combine them. So you choose a niche, such as fitness, and you can be a website expert in the fitness industry. So hopefully that makes everybody more clear on that difference. So why do I need a niche? Boy, I get that question a lot. The big thing is people automatically assume that if you're more of a generalist, then you have more options to work with clients. You might have more opportunities to work with clients. But here's the thing. Clients are usually looking for someone who understands their industry. And if you're a generalist, you're going to have a tough time being found among the sea of other generalists. So if you're the only one or one of a handful of copywriters in a certain niche, you are going to stand out and you're going to be found more often. You're going to be seen as someone who's an expert in that industry. For example, I have worked in the pet and veterinary industry for a long time, and I really understand a lot of the things that veterinary practices worry about, for example, or some of the jargon in that industry. For example, they don't call their customers customers, they call them clients. Just that subtle thing alone helps me be a better copywriter, and staying on top of the industry is a full-time thing, you know, so you really want to dive right in and be an expert in that market because clients will appreciate that. You can align more with them as a true partner and not just someone who writes copy. There's less of a learning curve, and they're thrilled about that. It's like, oh, I don't have to teach this person all about my business or my industry. I can just start talking to them about my needs and my copy, you know, my product and my services and my copy needs. And as an expert or a knowledgeable ally, you can charge more for your services. You're not just someone on one of those bidding sites that will write anything for $5 an hour. No, you're someone who has invested in this industry. You know about it. You can help clients there because you have that level playing field there. So it's huge. It makes a huge difference. This is just one example of what people will look for. They might look for a sports or fitness copywriter or a health and fitness copywriter or any one of those types of phrases. And, you know, only a few people, as I speak, are in certain niches. So there's a much better chance that you'll end up on page 1 of Google there's a much better chance that clients will find you online, and instead of chasing clients, they actually find you and come to you. It's huge. So I really think, I can't stress enough how important it is to find yourself a niche industry. So this is another common question. Which niches hire copywriters? Well, there are some clues to that. And the first group is the good niche criteria group. And these will be the big, thriving, and growing industries. So there are a whole bunch of them. And once I show you a short list, which is actually a big list, but it's a short list because there are many more, you will find that, oh, wow, okay, so now I get it. There are all these really interesting, big, growing, thriving industries that have a lot of opportunity versus a different kind of market that I'll show you in a second. But in a good niche, you have a variety of companies. So you might have direct business-to-consumer companies, and you might have business-to-business companies. So again, in the pet industry for me, or let's just take the veterinary industry more specifically, you have veterinarians who are marketing to pet owners, and you have pet product companies marketing to pet owners. But you also have this massive B2B market where all the people who supply veterinary equipment or retail store equipment or software to run the practice, all of those things are B2B, and it's huge on both fronts. So there's plenty of room in that kind of an industry to find clients. Pretty exciting, actually. You also want to look at industries that have active trade associations. And an easy way to do that is to just Google whatever your niche interest is. So let's just say medical device, and see if there's a trade association, medical device association, or medical manufacturing association. And Google those kinds of things and see what shows up. And if it's a good niche, there'll be 2 or 3 or even more associations or organizations that have annual conferences or online training or a magazine that they put out or discussion forums or any of the above. And those are really vibrant, healthy, big niches that you should be looking at. Also, do they spend a lot of money on marketing? So if they're having those big trade shows in the veterinary industry, they have several big trade shows each year, and one of them has basically 2 football fields of exhibitors. And all those exhibitors are spending at least, just to have a booth, just to be there, $30,000. And then it goes up from there. So what does the booth signage say? What are the brochures and the posters and the giveaways and the ads and all of that? It adds up to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is a great market. There are many markets like that where there's an active big trade association and people are spending a lot of money on advertising. Then you want to see what's being posted on the job sites, such as LinkedIn or Indeed, or Simply Hired. Those are all job sites where you can put in keywords. An example is if your LinkedIn profile has the word copywriter in it everywhere, and it should, and you pick a particular niche, you can sign up for LinkedIn Jobs and they will email you. They might not email you specific niche industry jobs, but you can just watch what jobs are being posted and you'll see trends. So for example, I tried this recently and I saw that a lot of colleges are hiring copywriters because they need to attract new students. And they are very aggressive marketers in that way, and they need writers constantly for all of today's different content marketing platforms. So that's just one example, the education market. But you'll see retailers, huge, always looking for writers, always. I can't tell you how many times I've seen PetSmart looking for copywriters, for example. I don't know why they have so many. It seems like, I don't know, they burn through them. I don't know, but they're always looking for more and more writers. So it's really interesting to look at all of those aspects of an industry you're interested in and versus the other kind, the less promising. I get people who ask me, oh my goodness, I really love the whole world of Reiki healing and people who do Reiki healing, and I just really want to work with them. Well, that's a wonderful thing, but most of those people are teeny tiny micro businesses, one person. trying to be a healer in a market, and they're often sole proprietors. They don't have a lot of money. So it's a kind of a painful way to try to make a living. You can certainly help them on the side if that's your passion, but I would pick an industry that has money above all else. There are stagnant industries too, and I can't name any in particular at the moment, but if you look at, well, maybe the film industry for taking pictures. I mean, everything's gone digital, so film industry is shrinking as far as I know. And that might not be one that you go after, of course. But photography might be one that you do go after because of all the suppliers that are selling cameras and digital equipment and processing and all that stuff. But if you wanted to be very zoomed in on something like film, you're going to be struggling there. And that's just an example. I don't have any scientific data on that, but I'm trying to give you an idea of things to stay away from. You also don't want to work with penny pinchers. These tend to be, in general, people who call me, hey, we're a startup. We don't have a lot of money now, but if you want to help us and grow with us, we'll pay you as we grow. That's kind of a nightmare because startups are well-intentioned, but a lot of them fail. And you just don't want to be like the startup copywriter because you'd be struggling. So, and also people who call you who just don't get the value of copywriters. You almost have to teach them on why you are worth something. And that's, again, a painful road. And that's not really for specific niches. There are those kinds of people in all niches, believe me. And if you run into people like that, just move on. Don't try to educate them. Don't try to squeeze them into this box where they get it all of a sudden and they're going to pay you. Go where people are already spending money and they already want you. They already need you. Okay, so good niches. Here is just a short list. And this is based on me always looking at industry trends and those job boards and all kinds of different, the trade associations. These are huge. So the whole real estate world has bounced back significantly in the last few years after that dark period a while ago. Construction is up. Home improvement is up. DIY is huge. All those shows on HGTV about, transforming your backyard into paradise. Well, all of that, think about the products that go into that. Healthcare and dental marketing, and sports and fitness marketing, and food and beverage. Retail, boy, oh boy, if I could have $1 for every retail ad I've seen looking for a copywriter, I'd kind of be wealthy on that. Education, the education market, all the way from preschools, very private, expensive preschools, all the way up to college and post-grad. And then babies is a huge market. People are still having babies, right? And more people are spending a lot of money on those babies. And then natural products, which spans many different types of industries, but you wouldn't even have to necessarily limit yourself to natural shampoos or natural food or you wouldn't necessarily have to do that starting out. Just being the natural product copywriter or something like that would do well for you because there isn't a lot of competition there yet. And then eventually you might want to focus on a sub area of that. Like in the pet industry, I have never focused on one part of that pet industry, but there is a whole natural, eco-friendly section of the pet industry that somebody could stake a ground in, put a stake in the ground in and say, that's my niche, because it's that big. So those are great examples of niches that are hiring copywriters, that need copywriters, that spend a ton of money on marketing. So, okay. Now that you see this world of opportunity and you get all excited, you're like, okay, how do I choose a niche among all of those? There's so much opportunity out there. It's almost like standing in a store and having to pick one color out of 87 colors of a dress or paint or something. I mean, it's almost overwhelming. So start with who you are. Start with your knowledge and your experience and your interests. Everyone on this call has a background. You have a career path that you've been in. If you just graduated from college, you still have a background because maybe you had high school jobs, maybe you focused on a specific area in college. Doesn't matter your age, your experience. There is something about you that makes you unique And it's worth taking some time to think about that, because the niche, I believe, will reveal itself to you when you do this. So what I have provided is a very simple worksheet that we've put up on the website so you can have it, and I'm going to just show you real quickly here. So this is the worksheet you can use to go through your personal inventory. Hopefully you can all see that. And now I'll go back to the slides, because what you want to write down is all of your assets, who you are, what you bring to the table, to an industry. And as you think about all these things, the industry or one or two niches will go bling, 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 and shine its star at you, and you'll go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I didn't think of that. That happens all the time. So look at your education, your college degrees if you have them, and your certifications or any kind of specialized training you have, and then your work history. It's a lot easier to start in a niche industry where you have some background because you've already got contacts. You can start connecting with people in LinkedIn. You can, reach out to your friends and colleagues in that industry and say, hey, this is what I'm doing now. Do you know anyone who needs a copywriter? And chances are someone will. I have a great story about that. I used to work for a veterinary equipment manufacturer, and one of my buddies that I worked for there left, and I had left, and we found each other again about 6 years later on LinkedIn, and he was now heading up a whole new company in the veterinary market, and they were launching a brand new website. So who do you think he asked to work on that brand new website? Ta-da! That would be me. Well, that's because we connected on LinkedIn because of our past work history, and it was just a no-brainer. We already knew each other. It was just an automatic win for both of us. So I highly recommend that you look deep into yourself. If you've worked in an industry and you just hate it and you never want to look at it again, that's fine. But if that's not you and you're okay and you're like, hey, you know what? I've been a software engineer for 20 years. I could be an excellent software copywriter. Well, there you go. So look at that work history and the connections in that. Also look at your outside activities. So what kind of things do you do for hobbies? What kind of areas are you belonging to, like clubs or church or schools or anything else that's interesting to you? And then what are interests that aren't necessarily activities, but you've always been interested in? Like someone's always been interested in, oh, I don't know, I make up a lot of stuff. Craft beer making. So that's an industry, believe it or not. It's a really big one. And if you have always, you've been a beer fan and you could be the beer writer. Why not? It's an active industry with both B2C and B2B companies. And then what about your beliefs? Are you political, social, other kinds of beliefs where, are you are you passionate about a cause? For example, for me, it's pet welfare, pet well-being. I'm very passionate about that. I'm a member of the ASPCA, and whenever I can, I help shelters and all of that. Do you have something like that? Because there is a great market for fundraising writers. It may not be as lucrative, and Rebecca and Katie can let me know if that's true or not. But in my experience, I did work for the American Cancer Society at one point, and it is not typically as lucrative for you as other sort of profit-focused businesses versus nonprofits, but it could be, depending on where you land or what the types of organizations you help.
I think you pretty much showed an example. That's you worked for a major nonprofit. It all comes down to budget. How much money are they bringing in, which is going to drive how much money they can spend on marketing. The more money they bring in, the more money they're going to be able to spend. So if you want to go into nonprofits, the key is to work for the ones with the bigger budgets. If you want to, but that being said, if you're passionate about it and you really want to help these smaller organizations, then it might be something that you just do on the side to, to pay it back, to build samples and build testimonials. But really, as far as, making a good living, you're probably going to want to go into an industry where there's more money or into a nonprofit who has a budget.
Definitely. Okay, awesome. Thanks for chiming in. Yes, because I forgot. I recently worked for a veterinary nonprofit that was very well funded by the product manufacturers of the world, so they actually paid well versus others. So, yes, pick your spot. And then after you've gone through this, you want to really narrow it down to just one or two, because you could get into analysis paralysis otherwise. And I love what Rebecca always says, just pick one and get going. You don't have to be married to it forever. Just, you know, start somewhere so you can get some traction and momentum and get going for yourself and get some income and clients. And then, you know, somewhere down the road you may say, well, okay, I've worked in fitness for a while, but I really, my heart is more in kayak. I mean, just specifically kayaking. I don't know, I'm making that up. But you can evolve. It's okay to evolve. But start somewhere now to take action so you can get some momentum going for yourself. So when you have narrowed down one or two niches, you want to make a plan to investigate. And that's the next question that we often get. How do I investigate a niche? And some of you may say niche, but I say niche. So there you go. Something for everybody. So,
tomato, tomato.
Yeah, you know, tomato, tomato, potato, potato. So here are 5 top ways to investigate a niche that you might be interested in. And some of them I've already talked about. But go into Google. Google is our best friend on this. And look at industry trends and news. And you could go into Google and type in the eco-friendly baby industry, or news on the eco-friendly baby industry, and just keep trying different phrases like that, and you'll see Google now shows you all, or images, or news. Click on the news and just see what kind of news stories are about trends or major new things that are coming out in the market, that type of thing. So that will give you some clues. And if you pick something that's big and thriving, there should be a lot of results for that. You can also go into websites like Businessweek, Forbes, Inc. magazine, go directly to their websites and click those, type in those phrases in the search box. So eco-friendly baby products, and click on that and see what shows up for articles. And there might be, you know, the top industries of the year. One of them is eco-friendly baby products. So that's pretty promising, right? Then again, you want to look at trade associations like I mentioned before. Google is our friend there again. So type in variations of what you think might be like medical devices, medical manufacturing, medical products. Type all of those in and see what kind of trade associations might show up. Then see if there are sub-niches. Like I said, in the pet space, we have a lot of sub-niches. You have food. You have natural eco-friendly, you have training, you have modern technology, all of these different sub-niches that are big in themselves. If you're investigating a niche and you see that, that's really cool, because then that's more opportunity for you. Again, go into the job sites and just see what trends are. Every so often, you can set yourself up to receive, if you download like the Indeed or Simply Hired app on your phone, they will feed you every day the newest jobs. And they're not going to necessarily feed you niche-focused jobs, but you can see trends as you look through. And you may even find a job as a copywriter. Woohoo! So the last thing is social groups. So LinkedIn, Facebook, look for social groups for either an association or other types of marketing groups in those niches and see what's happening. And then here's just an example. I went into Forbes and I typed in green building or green construction, and this is what came up. So, you know, it's going to grow from 16, you know, huge growth. So that's a good industry. Okay, question I get all the time. I know Rebecca and Katie get it too. I love ballet and I love construction. Can I combine those? Absolutely not. Or can I do both of those niches? And my analogy is this. If you're trying to do 2 niches at once, it's like having a foot in a boat and having a foot on the dock. And the boat is starting to drift away from the dock. What are you going to do? Are you going to jump in the boat or are you going to jump on the dock? You cannot do both at the same time or you'll have a very awkward split situation going on. And you don't want that for your career. So my answer is only if there is a viable synergy between the 2 niches. So if you want, if you're a passionate person about green, eco-friendly, sustainable practices, and you also have a background in construction, that's an obvious synergy that would work because there is a field for that. The same thing with senior travel. If you want to write about seniors, but you also love travel, that's a market. Medical software, same deal. EcoBaby, I've talked about several times. You just need to make sure. I would never advocate trying to start two separate and very disparate niches at the same time. You'll go crazy. So focus on one or combine two that really work together, that where there is an industry, a trade association, all of that, as that it fits that criteria. Okay. I was given 30 minutes to do my part. And now I think I did pretty well considering we had a technical snafu. But
you did a great job.
Oh, thank you. So we would love to, I mean, I could talk about this all day, but we have 25 more minutes, I think, available to answer anything.
I definitely have some key questions for you that I'm seeing some trends.
Great.
One of them is really about defining whether or not, the question that's being asked, even though it's not being asked this way, is this is my idea for my niche, is it profitable? How do I know that it's going to be a good niche? So can you just go through a little bit of detail as far as, you know, having to find actual businesses as opposed to a niche that may or may not have actual business? For me, it's always the money exchanging hands. But can you go through that a little bit?
Sure. Well, a couple of things. So associations have conferences every year, and quite often they will have a conference website. And you can go to that conference website. Let's just take the green baby, the eco-friendly baby thing. Maybe they're having a big conference. You go, and they usually have a list of exhibitors right on the website. That's a gold mine right there, because the more exhibitors, the more, you know, thriving and healthy that industry is. And right there is a list of products that could, companies that could potentially be clients. And they're spending money to be at that trade show, so you know they believe in marketing and you know they're spending money. So that's a really good clue right there. For example, in my vet world, that one show alone has 650 different exhibitors, actually closer to 700 this year. What kind of prospecting list is that? It's like, woohoo! And some of them are massive, like huge companies, names you'd recognize, like Mariel and Iams and Bayer, and they're going to have in-house teams or big ad agencies that do the writing. So they're probably not going to be someone that's for you. But there's that mid-sized sweet spot of companies that are not behemoths. They're really good, solid mid-size, but they don't have a copywriter in-house, or they don't have like a web copywriting expert in-house. So that's one of the ways, is just looking for companies on those trade association or conference websites that are spending money on, they're the big sponsors. They might be sponsors. They might have ads on the website, you know, banner ads. Those are clues as to who's spending money. And in the B2B world, I know Joshua Boswell talks about this. Make a list of prospects and simply call them and say, do you hire outside copywriters? And if they don't, say thank you for your time and hang up. If they do, ask them if you can send them your information or email a link to your website. It's as simple as that. Does that help?
That's great, Pam. I'm going to jump in now, and I see quite a few questions, people wondering experience versus education. You know, how does that weigh? You know, do you have to have certain degrees? What if this is just a subject that you're passionate about? Well, if you don't have any official training, will that hold you back?
Well, I think it's funny because sometimes people sell themselves short and they don't realize how much background they actually do have that's relevant. And it may not be formal, but for example, I had a wonderful person, Marianne, who some of us know, who's fantastic. She came to me and said, I really am struggling to find a niche. I'm kind of leaning toward the Christian market, but I'm not sure I have any background. And I said, well, tell me about things you've done before related to writing. And then she went on to say, well, I write the church newsletter every week. I'm like, what? Stop right there. Hello? That would be considered appropriate background. And she's like, oh, yeah. And so write down everything you've ever done. Even if you're a customer, Even if you've just been a passionate gardener and you want to work in the gardening industry, you totally will understand that niche. You'll have to learn maybe the business side of it a little more, but if you are, that's why I keep saying start with who you are. Because if you understand the market as a customer, you will understand the client's customer, and that has a lot of value. So you don't have to have necessarily a formal degree in gardening marketing. I don't even know if there is one anyway. But, and you may not have worked for a gardening company before. But again, if that's been a passion, a hobby, you've been part of the local garden club, you have cultivated roses in your backyard, I don't know, I'm making that up, but you probably have something relevant to offer if it's a good match.
Pam, one thing that I like to tell people on this topic is really look at the conversations that the companies are having with their customers, and then think about where you can add to that conversation. What is your viewpoint, your life experience, whatever it is, how can that add to what's already being discussed? And just one other little thing I want to say, just to put people's mind at ease, you know, you don't necessarily go out of the gate with a huge, you know, 24-page sales letter or a big, big package. You know, there's lots of smaller, easier entry points for you to start with. You can offer to write a blog post. You can offer to write emails. You can offer to write little ads. Anything, special reports, you know, things like that are just a great way to get your foot in the door. You get to know them, get to know you, and then you'll see an ascension. You'll see the projects grow in quantity as well as difficulty and scope.
Value, yeah. I mean, that's such a great point. I do want to tell everybody, lately in the pet industry, a lot of the requests to me have been either web content updates, articles, or blog posts. And those are easy, simple, not huge, you know, like ponderous projects that you're going to be like freaking out about. Blog posts are very simple. Articles are very simple. And it's so nice to get in the door that way. Another thought, too, is if you're passionate about a niche, like let's say like gardening again, and you have a nursery down the street that you've been buying your plants from, offer maybe to do their website or do some marketing for them for free in exchange for them to give you samples and a great testimonial. It's an awesome way to start to build your portfolio in that niche if you don't have that background, you know, formally, or you don't have portfolio pieces already. It's very common to start that way, and it's your local company will be so appreciative. I do my vets marketing in trade. So my dog's, you know, issues are taken care of because I do their marketing each month with the blog and email campaign. So, ta-da, it's awesome. And it's also a good sample for me.
That also leads to something that I'm answering in the chat, but I just want to make sure we talk about it as well. I'm getting some questions like, you know, can I focus on brochure ads in the real estate industry? Yes, you can do that. You can be very project specific, but it's going to be in your best interest to learn other project types as well. It is much easier to work with 4 clients on lots of projects than have to keep trying to get another client to do another project. It makes your business much easier if you are, let's say, specializing in, let's say you are in the real estate industry or the construction space, and they market using brochures, but they also do websites and emails. You're going to want to learn websites and emails because you wouldn't want to leave that money on the table with a potential client for another copywriter to do those projects. You've already made the relationship with the client. You already know their stuff. You've already worked with them. You know their lingo. So why not go ahead and learn how to do the other project types as well? So that's one thing. I also wanted to echo what Katie said about not having experience. We know so many people who have launched their businesses straight off of passion. You know, they've worked in nursing for 30 years, and they don't want to be in nursing anymore. They want to do something else. They've had a passion for gardening or natural health. I know one lady who had 0 experience in natural health or alternative health, and she led a life. She lived an alternative health lifestyle for 20 years. She was very well read on the topic. She had lots of personal stories. So her website, it never said, you know, I've worked with all these companies for 20 years, but she said, I have lived in the alternative health lifestyle for over 20 years, and here's my favorite books, and blah, 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 and here's the supplements that I take. So right away, she was able to position herself as an expert just because of being well-read on the topic. So you can definitely break into a niche where you don't have any work experience and just have a strong passion for.
And I interviewed David Toman yesterday for Professional Writers Alliance, and this was his exact experience. And he was having some horrific health problems and had to become his own advocate and do his own research. So the way that he approached it was he saw what was missing, what he needed, and then he went and found a company that he felt would be receptive to him. You know, he explained the situation, and they're like, oh, you're right. We don't talk about this, and this is a problem for people. And he became their go-to guy. So it's not black and white. There's not one way to do any of this. And definitely look at your life experiences through all kinds of different prisms and how can you turn those into opportunities.
Right,
so
and I just wanted to say, Rebecca, can I quickly pick up on one thing you said that's so important? If you want to focus on one type of writing, that's fine, like a web writing, for example, but you definitely want to be the person for your client. And like Rebecca said, not only do you not want them to go to somebody else because the other person will say, oh, well, I do web writing too, and then you're out of the picture, but the client doesn't want to have to train someone else. So if you're already up and got a relationship going with them, you can just say, absolutely, I can do those PPC ads, and then go to AWAI to find out how real quickly. I mean, I do that all the time. It's like, oh, case studies? Absolutely. And then I go find the case study program and become an expert really quickly. So.
Excellent. So I'm getting some questions about LinkedIn. Two types of questions. One is, I already have a profile in one space, but I want to move into the other. What does, you know, do you recommend, actually that's the main question. Do you recommend updating the profile? Do they change their profile? What do you do?
So I did that exact same thing. I used to have a website. I still have a website called Content Clear Marketing, but it wasn't very niche focused to anyone, and therefore I was limping along getting clients because it was just too broad. So I still have that on my website, on my LinkedIn profile, but then I also work for copywriter.com, and I added that, and I wrote about that on my profile. Now, since I work full-time for NAVC, AWAI now, it isn't as prominent as it used to be, the pet thing, but it's still, when I did launch as a pet company, I just added it as another job I have, and I added it to my summary, and I explained what I do there, and I added the clients or some links to things I've done and endorsements, and you can add to. So that's what I did.
Katie, do you have another question, or do you want me to keep going?
Let's see. Again, I see some other people asking about the opportunities in nonprofit and cause marketing, and if those are viable niches for them. And Pam, I know you touched on that, but maybe just another quick sentence or two about that.
Well, do you mind repeating that last part? Because I got distracted by another question I was looking at. I'm so sorry.
No,
we did question. You just tell me.
We did talk about the cause marketing and nonprofit looking for budgets, but maybe cause marketing specifically, because I think we exhausted nonprofits.
Well, cause marketing, so I find that it's in the same category, really, personally, and that may not be everybody's experience. But, for example, the Wildlife Conservancy, I blur the two, cause marketing versus nonprofit. So maybe you guys have an idea of the difference, because I blur them together.
So for me, nonprofit, yes. So nonprofit is someone who's looking to collect money typically. It could also be a not-for-profit, a business that is operating and just not collecting a profit. But when I think of nonprofits, it's it's bringing in money to help a cause so that it can fund research, things like that. Cause marketing oftentimes is, let's say AWAI wants to support Susan B. Komen cancer research. cause marketing would be you'd be writing for AWI about our support for the nonprofit. So most businesses nowadays, and cause marketing has become a huge thing because consumers don't want to just do business with businesses who are out for themselves. They want them to be paying some of that money back into the world. And so everybody, I'm sure everybody has seen, you know, I mean, Susan Komen is a perfect example of everybody is on board with the pink NFL. They're supporting, you know, breast cancer awareness, and that's cause marketing, helping them, the company get their message out about the support.
See, I'm giggling because I don't know everything, obviously. So
well, there's so many. I think this actually shows why. I mean, you know, I get this question on every webinar. Can you still be a copywriter? And it just is mind-boggling to me because, I mean, there's over 8 million companies in the U.S. and Canada alone, plus all of these different project types. Like, you know, 10 years ago, there were, well, I forget what Bob said at boot camp, but it was like, you know, half a dozen projects. There was the direct response sales letter, and maybe it was this piece. And now with social media and content marketing and cause marketing and advertorials and all this stuff, now you're talking about like 50 project types for every company. And so the demand is increasing at such an incredible rate that, I mean, it would be impossible to keep up with all of it. I just think that actually demonstrates the size.
Yeah, well, the other piece of that too is how many clients can you handle at one time? I mean, you might do a really great job with half a dozen clients, and 4 of them become long-term clients that you're working for every month, and you're bringing a nice income in, and that's awesome. So let's say 10 at the most. So if you're in a really good industry like fitness or some of the others I mentioned, you can only handle 10 companies, right? And that's really pushing it. So when you think that there are in any certain hot industry hundreds and hundreds and thousands of companies of all types, there is like an infinite, limitless opportunity for anyone.
Great. And to answer the root of that question, I think what David was asking was, is there budgets there? Can you make a living? And that goes back to, it depends on the organization and it depends on the budget that they have. Pam, Tom wants to know, in your opinion, are there some niches that are easier, quicker to get started in than others? He's particularly torn between travel, fitness, and info marketing.
Right. I don't know very specifically about those niches because I haven't worked in them, but what I would say is, as a blanket thing that I've experienced, business-to-business companies generally have budgets. They allocate every year for marketing communications, and copywriting is going to be part of that. And they tend to have really healthy budgets for the most part. These are manufacturers and software providers and any type of company that's supplying materials or equipment, those kinds of things to an industry. They are, from my experience, more formal about all this, and they've got budgets every year. And they have to keep, you know, pumping stuff out because their competition sure is. And they need to keep their website up to date, and they need to keep putting, you know, case studies together so they can compete. So if I was going to focus on something, I might think B2B is going to be stronger as a quick, known entity who has budgets for this. But Katie and Rebecca, you might have a totally different answer on that.
You know, I don't. I think they all have the same level of quick and easy opportunity. It's just finding the right company. I don't think it really matters what industry it's in. It's just finding the company that you connect with, that you can help out, that needs writers at this time. And like, you know, Rebecca and Pam were saying, there's so many different ways to get your foot in the door. So really just pick the one that you're most passionate about, or that you have some kind of inside track or inside ideas about, and just go for it. And the other thing is, you're not signing a contract. You're not going to be married to whatever niche you start out with. Oftentimes, one will lead to another, to another, to another. But you know, it's much easier to get started when you're just walking in one direction, and then instead of trying to walk in 3 directions at the same time.
If I
will say that.
can I just say
one?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have
the
one
same
quick
question.
thing to
I just want
add.
to stop this question from being asked. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. The one thing that will be the quickest way to get clients to find you, instead of you having to spin your wheels finding clients, is to make sure you have a website that has your niche represented on it. So if you're a wine copywriter, your website better say wine copywriter and wine marketing and wine web content or whatever all over it. Because if people are searching for that and you don't have that on your website, they're not going to find you. So if you're the chiropractor copywriter, make sure that's on your website. If you're the gardening copywriter, make sure it's on your website. Don't have a general website that happens to mention that you're interested in working in a niche industry. Make it so obvious for not only people looking at you, but Google.
All right, I'm sure that's going to bring up a whole new round of
I
questions
know,
about
I'm sorry,
websites.
but
So with that, before we get to that, if I could just take a breath for a second. There's 3 questions that I'm seeing again and again and again. 1, yes, we will be posting a playback, and anything that we discuss today, if we talk about a worksheet or we offer a free report or something, because this always comes up, it'll all be posted on the same page, and you'll get that email next week as well as the slides. So don't worry about that. You will get a playback and the slides and anything else we talk about today. A few questions on pricing. This session, we'll actually have a whole other session on pricing specifically. However, in the meantime, what we can do, again, we could talk easily about an hour about pricing. We will be posting a pricing guide. Cam is on the line, and she'll be writing down all the things that I start giving away just to make sure that you have what you need. But every year we put out a pricing guide on what you can expect on the top 50 projects, and we give that to marketers to educate them on the value of copywriters and what they should expect to pay for professional copywriters, as well as for you to give you ranges and show you kind of what you should expect when you get up and going. So we will post that pricing guide with the playback. I'm also getting a few questions of people asking about specific niches or specific project types, like what is a white paper or what about this niche? I'm going to link you over to our catalog promo pages. The reason I'm linking you is not to sell you a product. I just want everyone to know this. Our promos, when you see them, they're like 20 pages long. We put a ton of research into the industry, into the project type. We find the best expert, but we really do our due diligence before we recommend an opportunity for writers. If we recommend it, there's a really good way to make a living at it, and we found the proof to back it up. In those sales letters that you'll see, 80% of it is about the opportunity. So if you're interested in learning about something, go to our catalog. Or if you don't know and you just really want to look at different niches and see what's out there, we likely have a program on it. We likely have a program on the project. Read the promo, and you will learn exactly what a white paper is, how much you can get paid for it, what the job looks like, all of that. So our catalog is a great resource, and I will be posting some of those links for those of you asking those specific questions. Now,
you can also, just quickly also, you can go to AWAI's article archive too, and if you go in there and type in a search word like niche, you will find a ton of free articles too with tips on how to do this stuff.
Excellent. So one question I'm seeing, when you have a niche, when do you know if you need to have a niche within a niche? So for example, IT. You know, how do you know when you need to go smaller, or if you've gone too small, how do you know that you've gone too small and you need to go bigger?
Well, I would just start bigger and go smaller as you go along because, like I said, if you Google any kind of niche with the word copywriter, so baby copywriter, senior copywriter, you're going to find probably only a handful of other copywriters in that niche. So you don't have to be so narrow. You can just start broader and see which direction you go in, or unless you're really trying to combine 2 niches that you are, determined to combine. That makes sense. But otherwise, you don't have to be that narrow. I have never gone narrow in the pet and veterinary industry because there's only like page 1 of other people that do that. So I'm not that worried about it. There's enough for all of us. But really, and then some. But any industry, it's not glutted yet with writers. I mean, the only example I might take maybe is the financial and health publishing direct response companies. They may have a glut of writers, but other than that, I wouldn't worry about it.
And I wouldn't say they have a glut. I think that they have it's just harder to break into that because that's a little bit more technical, sophisticated type of writing. Yeah. So I would put it those ways. But this this question leads to the same thing. Somebody is asking, do you have a client who want you to do things that you do not do? What about subcontracting work out to other copywriters? So, Pam, I know you've been in that situation, and you've on both sides of the fence, so maybe just quickly how that works.
Yeah, I generally, for the writing part, I try to do it all myself, but people have asked, do I know a designer or a web developer, and I'm happy to refer them to someone because I've been a hero yet again to that client by finding them a good resource. When I started working full-time, I couldn't take on any more new clients on the side, so I set up a referral system of copywriters in the pet industry who know what they're doing, and I can refer them. And so, sure, it's just what do you want to do to control the relationship? How much of it do you want to give away? If you want to get involved in subcontracting and managing that and billing for that and making sure those subcontractors get paid and stuff, that's a different model. I haven't used that model, but I know others do. So it's interesting to be a copywriter because you have a lot of different ways you can run your business, and that's one of them.
All right, I'm just trying to look to see if there's anything that we haven't answered. There are lots of people asking about specific niches, and I recommend just laying out following the steps that Pam laid out here, or even if you want to get more in depth, her niche program, which you'll see in our catalog. You can do it over a weekend. It has all these great worksheets and action items. It's as fun as it would be for us to actually sit and analyze every niche that's coming up here. It's just not practical, and the reality is it's really up to you to do the research and see where that takes you, because you could just find this little pocket that's just right for you for, who knows what reason. But it's worth investing the time to investigate anything that you're interested in as fully as possible. And follow the money. Where is money changing hands? That's where you want to join the party.
Well, plus, if you're doing the research, then you're the one who's becoming more knowledgeable about that industry. I mean, I could tell you stuff about the beer craft industry, craft beer, whatever, but it's very surface, and if that's where you want to live, you want to dig in and understand it. So.
Okay. I see tons of questions. I'm not sure if maybe they're marked to me. Did you guys want to stay on, or do you want? I'm happy to keep running through them.
Yeah, let's go.
Kathy, I'll go ahead and answer this. And Cam, if you guys can just run through and mark any of the ones that we haven't answered with a priority, that would be awesome.
Rebecca, I'm seeing 20 and prioritized. Is that what you're seeing?
So far, yeah. But I'm also over, and I see a lot that haven't been prioritized yet. So I just wanted to answer this question really quick. We talked about this one actually at our last INSIDE AWI. Kathy wants to know what types of projects keep regular clients for me. Because we have a lot of new people on this call, I just want to talk about what a retainer is. A retainer project is where a client expects something from you every month, and you in turn expect regular payment every month. They're great for those of you looking to make the leap from a full-time job to a freelance life because they give you a little bit of stability. It's predictable income. The types of jobs that are going to be on retainer are things that companies need every single month. So content, newsletters, email, social media. Social media, for example, though, you may work for a client to manage their Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages. They then, in turn, might pay you $2,000, $3,000 a month to oversee those, to tie in their marketing efforts, to engage with their readers, to bring back ideas to the marketing team about things that you're seeing. That's what a social media manager might do. They expect you every month to do that same job, to be there. They want to rely on you. So in turn, they're just going to pay you every single month. They'll pay you $3,000. Now, you can have multiple of those clients. You could focus just on being a social media manager. You could focus on being a social media manager in the health space. So that's an example of niching a project type in with an industry, and that is a retainer type job. So as far as those, Kathy, to answer your question, what types of projects keep regular clients, it's anything that they need month after month. So things like social media, emails, content for their website, newsletters. Once a company sends out a newsletter, they can't stop. If I say I'm going to email you every week, I have to write copy every single week. And for most businesses, that's not what their business is. They're in the business of developing widgets or selling this service. They're not in the business of writing a newsletter every single month. Veterinarians, how are they supposed to write a newsletter every month? They're not writers, they're doctors. So that's just thinking about those types of projects, and that can definitely give you some regularity and predictable income.
I want to jump in.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I have a question, too, that we promised would be answered, so I want to be sure we get it.
Go ahead. Just go ahead.
It's from Sharon, and she wants to know, please address rules for writing for 2 or more companies that would be competitors in the same niche, especially locally or at a state level.
I love that question. Thank you. I never work for competitors, ever, ever, never, ever. And here's why. When I am providing services to a client, I am theirs 110%. I want to do everything possible to help them dominate the world, and I tell them that. I'm going to help you dominate the world in SEO. Really, and I can't do that and then turn around and say to their competitor, I'm going to help you dominate the world. So I don't do that. And in a good niche, you wouldn't have to. You would have enough different kinds of companies that don't compete head-to-head. And so sometimes I've been approached by competitors, and they say, well, you know, we would love to have you write for us. And I have to say, I'm really sorry, but I already work for people who make veterinary exam room tables and cages and stuff, so I can't work for you. And then they'll be like, oh, who do you work for? Sorry, I can't tell you that, but I'm married to them. I'm loyal to them, and we've done some great things together to help market their position, and that's where we're going to stay. So that's my rule, and I don't know of any other that can make you feel good about what you're doing for that client. So I would stay away from competitors.
Good. That's a good question. I also wanted to, I'm getting a couple questions about websites because we talked about putting up a website. So Celeste wants to know, do we have anything on putting up websites? Do we assist in building personal websites? I actually do a 4-part webinar series called Build Your Freelance Website in 4 Days, and I walk you through all of this, how ideally you come to that with a niche because writing your website will be way easier if you know who you're targeting. But we walk you all the way through what's a good website, what's a bad website, to show you examples of why it's bad and why it's good. We help you plan all of your content. I say we because I do have a couple of other experts join me on the series. But we actually map out all of your content with you live on the webinar. We plan out your website, and then we actually show you how to do it yourself. So you don't have to do it yourself, but we literally, it's like 85 slides on the 4th day. And we put this video together where you can literally just click through, and we show you push this button, drag this here, and we go all the way to where you take your own website live. It's called Build Your Freelance Website in 4 Days. It's on the catalog page, and I will link you, Celeste, since you were asking about it. I'll provide a link in the Q&A. You can get access to the recordings now, and we will be doing it again live in a month or so. So if you go ahead and sign up for the recordings now, you'll still have access to the live. Part of that also comes with a critique, which is great. So once your website's up, we go through it and we review your whole website and then tell you how to make it even stronger to make sure that it's representing you as a professional who provides great value.
Cool. I see a question about agencies, working through agencies, and I'd like to answer that.
Good.
So one of the ways you can find work is through marketing agencies, ad agencies, web development companies, those kinds of firms in your niche, or approach a B2B ad agency. Because they will have a team in-house who does probably the more traditional advertising stuff or the clever stuff. but they don't have an SEO copywriter. They don't have an email expert. They don't have a landing page expert. They don't have one of these other types of writers that happens to have an expertise. And so quite often they will round out their team with a virtual team member, which would be a freelancer. And I have found some really wonderful projects that way where I don't have to build a relationship or set up the agreements or do anything like that. I actually, for B2B, for example, I had an agency call me and they go, we don't have an SEO web writer. Can you help one of our clients, which is a huge name you'd all recognize, and I can't name it. But I was like, heck yeah, hey, sure, you know. And so I became part of their team, and they would give me the creative brief and the background and what the mission is and the keywords, and then I just started writing and running stuff by them every now and then to make sure they were happy with it. But it was a fantastic way to not have to do a whole lot of marketing of myself and suddenly have this great project. So look into agencies of all kinds, consulting firms, marketing agencies, web development, ad agencies, all of those as possible.
I wanted to answer this one question. I just answered it in the Q&A and thought it would just still be a good one to talk about. He had a very specific focus and experience with ADHD. And so I was explaining to him, he was saying, is that too narrow or should I go broader? So I was explaining, and I think this explanation is useful for all. To know if you're too narrow, go ahead and start the research. So let's say your topic is ADHD. Who's selling in that space? There's going to be two kinds of companies selling. One is going to be to parents, so to consumers of people, either parents with children who have ADHD or adults who are dealing with it themselves. So that's consumer. The other side is going to be B2B. So drug manufacturers, treatment providers, published content, training and coping that will be selling to businesses like doctors, teachers, people who are having to service and help people who are suffering with ADHD. So there's the B2B side, which is the one who targets businesses, so teachers, doctors, things like that. And then there's the B2C side. Just start there. You'll see how many companies you come up with. If you get a list of 100 companies, you probably have enough. But that's how you'll start. If you only get 10, well, then you might need to expand. But you need to think about the market within the industry, so the consumer and the B2B side, and then just start researching. If you're researching the consumer side, pretend you're a parent of a child who has ADHD. Go to Google and start researching information on how to treat it. You will find all the companies who are trying to target you. You will find all of the pharmaceutical companies. You will find all of the content providers. You will find everyone who's ever published a book on it. Like, it will all show up right away. So it's a great way of just doing the research. I also wanted to mention, though, this specific one, he said he's had a personal experience with all of this. It might also make something that's called a money-making website, something else that we talk about at AWAI, and that's where you write a website on a topic that you are very passionate about. We show you how to basically write your own content, your own website, where you become the expert. So, Mike, you could actually write this website speaking, let's say, to adults who are maybe going through the same journey that you have already been through, sharing your story, sharing your advice. You would then reach out to all of these companies that are trying to sell to consumers and have them advertise on your site. You might have special reports that you sell. By doing that, and this is a totally different conversation and a different strategy, but for those of you who have these very specific things based on experience, you might be able to create another revenue stream for yourself without having any clients, where you have a business on that specific topic. What that also does, though, is creates you it sets you up as an expert in that niche. When you go to approach a company about their ADHD product or service, you can reference your site. I happen to be in this space as well. Now you're more of a colleague as opposed to, someone just providing the service in that space. So that's called a money-making website. There's tons of information on our website about it, and we will definitely do another session just on that in the near future. There was one other. Yes.
Oh, okay. I just want to jump in. There's quite a few questions too about being a newbie, and are people how important is my experience going to be? And I've never asked a writer, how long have you been a copywriter? What I have asked is, I'd like to show me some writing. So your writing really does all the talking. And if you don't have experience, or if you don't have samples yet, first of all, I would recommend that you put some together. Even if they're not for paying clients, put some writing samples together. And again, you can go on our website to get ideas about how to do that. In Rebecca's Build Your Freelance website program, she shows you how to go about doing that. But honestly, the thing that's so important is all of your communication with these potential clients is proof of your copywriting ability. The email that you write, the conversations that you have, all of that you should be thinking in terms of, I'm trying to get this person to take a specific action, and what are the persuasive techniques that I know that I need to employ to make that happen. Be very strategic in how you present yourself and all the communication that you do. And honestly, I've hired people off a good email that they've sent me. If there's something, if it's well written and hits all of the persuasive techniques that I know are important, I'll say, oh, you know what, this person knows how to talk to me. They know how to communicate, and that's enough to get my interest started. And you know, as far as being honest or this, you know, again, you never want to not be honest, but I wouldn't worry about it. I don't think that that's something that it could be a tripping point for you. And if they do say, you know, what have you written before? You know, you just say, you know, I'm starting out, and this is going to be a great opportunity. And again, that's another reason why you may want to start with smaller projects within the company.
Good question. That one comes up a lot too. You being a newbie doesn't matter. As long as you have the skills and you can do the work, that's all that matters. And if you have taken our programs, we're confident that you have, you know, the education part of it. If you've done the exercises, you're that much further along. And if you've written a sample like Katie suggested, and a sample just really is a sample of your work. If you say you want to write emails, write a couple sample emails. I don't care who you worked for or where they went or anything. I just really want to see an email just so I can see a sample of your writing to see if it would be a fit for us. So I think that's great advice.
And one thing that kind of ties into this as far as company, right? Somebody's asked saying that they've, you know, what if you see typos and grammatical errors on a person's website? Should you contact them and offer to be a copy editor pointing out these mistakes? You know, that's
no.
Yeah, no. Don't. Come to them with a sales idea. Come with them with a persuasion, you know, an idea to make money. You know, these things happen. None of it's perfect, but yeah, no.
I have this one. I get this one a lot. They're changing careers. So she says, for me, I'm changing from an industry in clinical practice for 20 years to copywriting now. How do I address that in my resume? You're never going to post your resume. As you learn to become a copywriter, you're going to be selling yourself and your services just like you would be selling a supplement. You know, what's the value? What's in it for them? What do you bring to the table? So when you're writing your copy about yourself and you're selling to the client, what experience do you have is relevant to me? If it's not, you know, if you have 20 years in solar technology experience, but you want to write for AWAI, now you've got to figure out, you know, what is relevant? Is it your project management skills? Is it your ability to oversee challenges? Or, you know, you did a lot of writing, you know, you wrote the website or whatever. You have to figure out what the relevancy is to the niche that you're moving into now. And again, it could just be a passion or an interest. Like for AWAI, all of our copywriters are AWAI students. We don't hire people outside, one, because we want to make sure that they have our training because we know it happens to be the best, but two, because they are our customers. You're our prospect. Who better to write to you than you? You know you inside and out. And so that can even be a way in. If you are a big believer in the product or service for a company or an industry, or, you know, you're a passionate yogi and you're marketing yourself to yoga manufacturers, yoga product manufacturers, just say that. I am your customer. I know who you're selling to. Who better to reach them than me?
And give me a try. Let me, give me a try. If you don't like it, you don't have to pay for it, or we don't, we'll just move on. But it's certainly very little risk on your part to let me show you what I can do.
So we're coming at about an hour and 20. I've got a couple questions on marketing at trade shows. I actually did a webinar over on Wealthy Web Writer, one of AWI's membership sites for web writers that focused specifically on this. I gave you a full marketing strategy for marketing yourself at trade shows. So Cam, if you can add that to the list, we'll post that on the playback. That way, for those of you who are interested in what Pam was talking about and actually marketing at trade shows, you have a step-by-step on how to make that possible. Other questions? I think we're getting close, Katie and Pam.
Yeah. There's two, I see two questions, and it is about specific niches, gaming industry and women's issues. And, you know, I really hope that everybody goes back and listens to these replays. You know, we cover so much material, and especially at the end here, it does become a little rapid fire. So the calls are available. We're going to be posting transcripts. You know, go back and study, and I think that the answers will sink in a way that maybe they're not when we're talking so quickly.
Good. Well, Pam, is there anything specific that you want to make sure people know if we were to wrap soon?
No, I think we've covered so many different things, and if they want to, you know, follow up and check out the free articles on choosing a niche and other materials that we have for them, that's probably the best way to go after absorbing all of this, because we've thrown a lot out here, and I love all the questions and the passion, and I do encourage everyone to take the time to research for yourself, because I couldn't even, you know, if I saw 12 niches in front of me, I wouldn't know instantly if they're great. I can only say find out for yourself, because then you'll be invested in it.
Great. I agree, and there's no wrong answer. You know, the whole key with all of this, with being successful in this business, is taking the step forward and starting. It's very easy to just sit on this side of the bridge and say, oh, you know, I'll just take one more course, I'll just learn one more skill, I'll do one more webinar, read one more book. I'm telling you, there will always be one more thing that you can do that will stop you from moving forward. Picking a niche is the step that you need to take to cross over the bridge to start promoting yourself as a freelance writer. So do it. There's no wrong answer. You might start down a path and work down that path for 30 days and then say, you know what, I hate this niche. I'm going to go back to one of those other ones I was more excited about and go on that one instead. But here's what's happened. You now have that much more experience. You know how to research a niche. You know, you practiced putting up your website. You took action. You did things. You're going to be able to do that same 30 days of work in a few days now. So you get to leverage everything that you've done over to the new niche that you're working on. Or let's say you work for 6 months in a niche and you feel good about it and you're great and you're like, you know what, I could use a little bit more of a challenge. Maybe I'm going to do it again and launch a second niche. Then you can have a second niche, because now you you know what it's like to work, and maybe you want a little more variety. That's okay. But now you know how to do it. So what took you 6 months the first time may only take you a month the second time. The key with this and with everything in this business to success is taking action. You have to make decisions. You have to take action. There's no wrong answer. Just step forward. And I promise you, once that snowball gets going, it goes fast. You just have to get over this little tiny bump before you can really start getting out there and doing it and living this life. Katie, what about you? Closing thoughts?
Amen. Go get them.
All right, guys. Well, we will send you a playback on early next week. Pam, thank you so much for all this information and for being with us here with us today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a blast. It's so much fun.
And if you have any topics you'd like us to cover in future Inside AWAIs, send them in. We'll put them on the list.
We're happy to get on as often as you need. So thank you, guys. This is a great opportunity for us as well.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.